Good morning, everyone. It's time for one of the most exciting parts of our conference, the lightning talks. And as you heard from Jim earlier, these are short format presentations that challenge researchers to share the heart of their research in just 3 minutes with one slide and a room full of curious people like you. That might sound simple, but it takes real skill to distill complex work into something clear, compelling, and meaningful to a broad and diverse audience. And together, that's what we are celebrating here today. Not just the content of the research, but the communication, confidence, and creativity behind it. These student researchers were nominated by faculty from across the state and selected because they can do something powerful. Articulate not just what they are studying, but why it matters to them and to us. As you listen today, I invite you to keep 2 things in mind. First, listen for what resonates for you. What connects to your own work, questions, or your community? Second, write down a question or insight because we'll bring them all back on stage for a Q&A after the last talk, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Some of these researchers also have posters in today's session, so you'll have a chance to follow up with them and talk some more. And with that, let's show them how excited we are and to hear from them by giving them a big round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. Let me just start by saying you guys all look great. Kind of wished I put a suit on or something. But anyway, my name is Gautam Balakrishnan. I'm from Lewis Clark State College, and my summer's research topic is air toxics in wildfires and prescribed fire smoke. We've all seen the haze, thick wildfire smoke rolling across the sky. But what's actually in that smoke? And what happens when that smoke follows us indoors? Over the last 2 decades, wildfires in the western United States has not only increased in size, but has also changed the air we breathe in ways we're just starting to understand. So for our research, our team collected air samples in Idaho and Montana during both prescribed and wildfires using sorbent tubes. We then analyzed these samples using a high-tech instrument called thermal absorption gas chromatography mass spectrometry to detect volatile organic compounds, in vague terms, air toxics. To be honest, I'm not too sure what was more challenging, the research work I did all summer, or learning to say that instrument's name. Jokes aside, we focused on a specific group of compounds called BTEX, which includes benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylenes. These are compounds known to contribute to negative health risks. As you can see on the slide, benzene and toluene appears to be less saturated compared to the other 2 compounds. Well, this is because it is more prominent in the smoke compared to the other ones. From our research, unlike haze or smoke, these compounds aren't visible to the naked eye, which leads to the unawareness of their presence during smoke. From our research, we found that BTEX was present in both prescribed and wildfires, showing us that even controlled burns can have hazardous compounds. But more strikingly, we found that indoor air was often more contaminated than outdoor air. This means that once smoke infiltrates a building, whether it's your home, your office, or your school, these compounds could linger and concentrate, potentially creating a health hazard. So why does this all matter, you may ask? Well, most people think of indoor places as safe havens during wildfires. But our data shows that without proper filtration and ventilation, this can actually trap harmful compounds even inside. As wildfires get more common, we can't just focus on the air outside. We have to start paying close attention to what's inside our walls. because when the smoke clears, the dangers must still be there, right where we live. Before I end my beautiful speech, I'd like to say that I'll be presenting my poster at 11:30 later, number 172. So please stop by so I can clear some of your doubts. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello and good morning to everyone. My name is Prajita Burathoki and I am a civil engineering student from Idaho State University. Today I'm excited to share my talk titled Paving the Way, Nature-Inspired Concrete Powered by Glass Fibers. As you know, every year we pour enough concrete to build a wall around the earth 30 times. Steel and concrete, these are the two very most important materials that build up our world, from holding up our cities, to streets we walk, to roads we drive. However, these two very materials are responsible for nearly 20% of the global carbon dioxide emissions. That is 1/5 of the global carbon dioxide emissions we cannot afford to ignore. However, if we are talking about tackling climate change, we cannot just ignore concrete or steel, because these are very two important materials. This is not just part of the problem, but this is where the solution must begin today. This very question lit the spark for this research, how small tweaks inside concrete could mean a massive change for the environment and could mean big win for the planet. Now imagine this, you're walking down the road or you're driving down the road and you hear that sudden thunk-thunk as you drive down the road or cross a pavement joint. Not a big deal for now, right? However, under the snow, salt and sun over the time, these joints, they crack, corrode and crumble. And the reason you'd ask? It's the concrete. It's the concrete, the steel joints beneath the concrete that is slowly corroding and rusting with every passing season. So what are we doing? Through an international collaboration of Idaho State University with the Australian University based in Kuwait, we are replacing these corroding and rusting steel bars with glass fiber reinforced polymers, or the GFRP bars. And these are strong, rust-proof, and far more durable than steel. Then, taking it a step further, we are integrating flax fiber harvested from plants. These are natural plant-based material that reduces microcracking and it increases resilience in the concrete. You heard that absolutely right. It's not just a plant-based burger right now. We are talking about plant-based concrete. Now, glass fiber, to make it simpler for you guys, the glass fiber dowels, they act as a skeleton, strong and rust-proof, while the flax fibers, these are the connective tissue, flexible and sustainable. Together, they create a hybrid kind of concrete known as the natural fiber reinforced polymer, reducing our environmental footprint. We are talking about fewer repairs, less carbon dioxide emissions, and lesser use of steel, simply by rethinking what goes inside our concrete. Now, as the climate goals and infrastructural needs collide, this is more critical than ever. What I've learned is that sustainability, it doesn't always start with large changes. Sometimes it just starts in the lab with materials that you can barely see. And maybe, and just maybe, the path to a greener future isn't far off in the future. It's already beneath our feet. We just have to build it better. The results are promising, and we are confident that this approach could lead to a stronger, greener, and durable pavement, not just here in Idaho, but everywhere around the world. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Cora Newman from Boise State University. You might end up remembering me as Glyphosate Girl, and I am investigating the origins of Parkinson's disease in a mouse model. I'm going to start by introducing two kind of unrelated topics. If you give me just a minute, I will explain how they're connected. Number one, glyphosate. This is the active ingredient in Roundup, and the most widely used herbicide in the world. The United States drops over 250 million pounds of glyphosate onto our crops each year, a weight equivalent to 1,100 blue whales in freedom units. The other is Parkinson's disease, the second most common neurodegenerative disorder in the world, making it very likely that most of us in this room, myself included, have a personal experience with it. I've been working on the hypothesis that Parkinson's disease, which I will also refer to as PD, starts in the gut, and then ingestion of environmental toxins like glyphosate will induce and exacerbate the spread of this disease. Parkinson's is marked by the accumulation of phosphorylated alpha-synuclein, or ASYN, into aggregates called Lewy bodies. Imagine that ASYN are the little seeds that are in the brain of every garden, that are in the garden of every brain, and if they root and clump together, those are Parkinson's, grown into Lewy bodies. That's our pathology, or how we can see Parkinson's as the disease in the brain. Those ASYN seeds that I mentioned can be planted or placed by us, which is how we can study the spread of Parkinson's disease. The reason we do that is because we're not quite sure where those seeds are planted in people with the disease, or where and how it all starts in the first place. The idea that Parkinson's starts in our gut and travels to our brain is more new, and this is known as the gut-brain hypothesis that has gained more support in recent years. This suggests that we should be investigating things that we eat and drink and their long-term potential for neurological damage. That's all important background because pesticides have been implicated in Parkinson's. Paraquat and rotenone were both widely used in the United States starting in the 70s, and we now have tons of data showing that exposure to either one can cause Parkinson's. This means that these pesticides are so good at inducing Parkinson's that the NIH actually has approved them as methods to induce the disease in a model for study of Parkinson's. So you can inject a mouse with some paraquat and he'll get some Parkinson's pretty quick. Fortunately, we don't really use those very much anymore, but glyphosate is used a lot. Its use only continues to rise, and Roundup is so accessible that any of us could walk into a gardening center to get some for our own lawn. Other research has now shown that glyphosate can cross the blood-brain barrier and is correlated with neurodegenerative diseases. So this summer, I am working on 2 related projects that explore the hypothesis that Parkinson's starts in the gut. Number 1, we are attempting to replicate a study done by researchers at Johns Hopkins where we induce the pathology of Parkinson's into the gut of mice and track the spread to the brain. Number 2, we're assessing if chronic exposure to a low amount of Roundup can actually induce and worsen Parkinson's-like symptoms and pathology. In that first experiment, we're hoping to see Parkinson's pathology propagate from where we put it in the gut, up the vagus nerve, and into the brain. That's still ongoing, but when finished, if true, it would further support the gut-brain hypothesis. In the second, we injected those PFF seeds into the brain, and we gave mice either water or water with a low dose of Roundup. That is a Roundup amount that's pretty similar to what we all ingest in non-organic produce. The reason we did this is to see if it exacerbated Parkinson's symptoms, and it did. Chronic Roundup exposure exacerbated our Parkinson's-like symptoms in our male mice, but not our females. And all of our mice that drank Roundup water and not normal water ended up gaining more weight than the mice with normal water. So maybe that's a coincidence, but 95% of all American cotton, wheat, soy, and corn crops have glyphosate on them. And worldwide, countries that use glyphosate use the most tend to fall towards the top of the obesity scale. So whether it's glyphosate, paraquat, rotenone, or something else, exposure to pesticides and herbicides has serious impacts to you and those around you. There's really only so much that we can do when it's used on such a large scale, but long term, I hope that our research can help determine safe environmental policies and shed some light on the origins of Parkinson's disease, which would ultimately help in determining more beneficial practices and procedures and treatment. I am Cora Newman, or just Glyphosate Girl, and thank you so much for your time.
Hi everyone, my name is Oliver, and today I want to talk to you guys about bringing humans back into design. So, real quick, let me ask a question. Let me have you guys think about what might happen if you, a family friend, or just someone you knew lost their job. Where might they go next to find a new one? Well, some folks tend to look towards technology. There is a large number of technology jobs that are actively looking for employees with great pay. Take a look at cybersecurity. There is over 4 million absent jobs right now, and those pay for entry level from $65,000 to $80,000 a year. So it can be very convincing to jump from what your current job is that you might have lost to technology. But there's a few barriers to that, and one of which is here on the screen. This is a software called Wireshark. And while it has a fun name, it's got a very interesting purpose of helping cybersecurity operators see if someone is being attacked or if your system is under attack by someone who you don't know. Now, there's a lot going on the screen. So, as a raise of hands, who here feels overwhelmed just by the amount of data that's up here on the screen? A pretty fair majority of you. Now, this screen isn't static when we're using it. This screen updates at a rate of about 100 lines per second, so there's a lot of data coming across the screen. But now what can we do about this? Well, my research looks at taking psychology, artistic design principles, and computer science and mixing those all together to create mathematical models that allow us to tune and calibrate these displays to make them more usable for the day-to-day operator. This means not only do these systems become easier to use for those actively in the field using these systems and keeping everything from cybersecurity to nuclear reactors or water facilities safer for us, but it means folks without a strong technical background also have the opportunity to switch jobs and jump into a technical field. With over 4 million jobs that we need to fill to keep our critical infrastructure secure, this shouldn't be a barrier to entry. This should be something where we're taking into account what humans need and making technology work for humans, rather than having humans work around technology. And the hope for this in the future is to turn this into a system that we can then apply to our existing infrastructure and make it so that these systems automatically calibrate to what each individual user needs. Meaning that if you were to jump to a job in cybersecurity, at your local water facility, or at something like a nuclear reactor, or even in healthcare or agriculture, your system will be built to work for you rather than the other way around. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. I'm Sonali, and I'm from Idaho State University, and my research is unlocking the neurochemical secrets of aging, investigating the impact of GABA-producing probiotics on healthy aging. So let me start with one simple question. Everyone in this room, at this exact moment in time, whether it's myself, the people in the back, or the people in the front, we're all doing something. We're all aging, whether it's from childhood to adolescence, and further on. Every single one of us is on that path. And let's be honest, aging can be scary. Sometimes it can bring the risk of disease, neurodegenerative conditions, and can change how we feel and how we function. But what if we could slow that process down? Maybe even protect ourselves from some of its harmful effects, starting not with medicine, but with bacteria. Let me explain. Let's take something relatively familiar, coffee. I'll be the first to admit, I am not a morning person. It took me a little bit to get out of bed this morning. But like many of you, I need that cup of coffee. So think about that one person in your life who needs that cup of coffee. What happens when they skip it? They're cranky, they're anxious, they're tired. Sometimes it's hard to be around them. But what happens when they get that cup of coffee? It's like flipping a switch. They're happy, they're energized, their entire mood changes. In a similar way, my research focuses on flipping a biological switch using a natural substance, not caffeine, but a GABA-producing probiotic called Lactobacillus lactis. This bacterium plays a fascinating role in stimulating the release of GABA, a chemical messenger in your brain that helps reduce anxiety, improve mood, and help regulate sleep. You can think of GABA as your brain's calm switch. As we age, GABA production often decreases, which can contribute to cognitive decline, anxiety, and even diseases like Alzheimer's. So in my research, I'm explaining how Lactobacillus lactis could be used to potentially enhance GABA production, potentially improving brain health and protecting against harmful age-related conditions. Finally, imagine something as small as a microbe could help us age with more clarity, tranquility, and control. This is an ongoing aging study, and I'm still early on in this research. But the possibility that a simple probiotic could help support brain function as we age, that's the kind of science that excites me. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Abraham Rubalcaba. I'm from Idaho State University, and my research mentors were Dr. Caputo and Dr. Pascali. The title of my research this morning is Beyond the Behavior. The Bureau of Justice Statistics shows a dramatic drop in juvenile arrest. Violent crimes fell 77%, and property crimes dropped 79%. So the system is getting smaller, but disparities still shape who ends up inside and who gets out. Not all youth benefit equally, especially those those impacted by trauma or disability. My research asked the question, why are some juveniles more likely to reoffend? And one answer is often overlooked: learning disabilities and trauma. We found that youth with conditions like autism, cognitive impairments, or learning disorders are more likely to be arrested again. The more trauma a young person is faced, the more likely they are to reoffend. Not because they are more dangerous, but because the system misunderstands them. That's not about bad kids. That's not justice. That's a system failing to tell the difference between a cry for help and untreated pain. Kids with obvious disabilities, like those who struggle to speak, for example, were more likely to be identified and released sooner. But those with hidden challenges, like dyslexia, ADHD, or processing disorders, were often kept longer. Their needs were missed. And that tells us early screening is important. And here's the hard truth. When learning disabilities go unrecognized, behavior gets punished. That leads to higher recidivism, worse outcomes, and wasted potential. But there's a catch. Tools like the Youth Adverse Inventory and the Adverse Childhood Experience Score helps us assess risk and trauma. But they don't tell the whole story. Without proper screening for special education needs or trauma, we miss critical pieces. To really help, we need to recognize learning challenges and trauma early and respond with support, but not just scores. Because when we address the root cause, when we treat the disability, instead of just punishing the behavior, we reduce the chance that they'll reoffend. So now what? We need earlier screening, more training for our professionals, and systems that respond with support and not suspicion. Juvenile justice should be more about detention. It should be about direction, and then recognizing learning disabilities is a key piece of the puzzle. We can finally start breaking the cycle for good. Thank you very much.
Hello everybody, my name is Callie Schmidt and I'm from University of Idaho, and today I am presenting Exploring Innovative Approaches to Micropropagate North American Cloudberry, or Rubus commemoris. So today I would like to introduce you to the sweetest thing that you've ever heard of, cloudberry. In the middle of the slide there's a botanical illustration that I drew depicting what cloudberry looks like when it's fruiting. Not only does this golden orange berry pack a powerful punch with its sweet yet tangy flavor, but it's bursting at the seams with vitamin C and antioxidants. Despite the overall appeal of cloudberry, there are still challenges that keep this Arctic gem out of reach from widespread cultivation. Now imagine this for a moment. What if we were no longer able to produce strawberries? California produces over 90% of the United States strawberry crop. This would not only impact consumers, but it would also dramatically impact local economies, particularly in California. Now I know that this seems like a very far-fetched scenario when it comes to strawberries, but for cloudberries, we face a very similar, very real problem. Cloudberries are almost entirely harvested from the wild. This reliance puts us at a disadvantage. Unpredictable natural conditions can result in low berry yields, which in turn can put more pressure on struggling cloudberry populations. We need to find a way to sustainably and reliably produce cloudberries on a large scale, which is precisely what my research aims to do. My research is centered around micropropagation, which is a technique that involves growing new plants from a very small amount of plant tissue. A sample of tissue is taken from the mother plant. This could be a stem, a leaf, or in some cases, just a couple of cells is all that's needed. The sample is then cleaned and placed into a sterile environment that contains all of the nutrients and hormones needed. But each species, and sometimes even specific varieties, can have requirements for these nutrients and hormones, making the development of a more precise protocol vital. My research is studying what happens to cloudberry plants when I change these nutrients and hormones in that media. By finding appropriate nutrient levels, we can produce more vigorous plants, maximizing their survival rates. Micropropagation has 3 key factors that make it appealing for cloudberry production. The first being consistency. Each plant produced is a clone of the parent plant, which grants us incredible control. We can select plants based on superior qualities and reliably reproduce them. This ensures that every plant has the same desirable traits as that parent plant that the tissue came from. Second is the level of efficiency that can be achieved with micropropagation. From a single cloudberry plant, I was able to create 25 plantlets in a matter of weeks. This is a dramatically shorter waiting time than traditional means of propagation. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is sustainability. By being able to produce cloudberries at an accelerated rate, further research into cloudberry cultivation can be conducted, enhancing our understanding of this Arctic mystery and harsh environments in which it grows. What started off as an exploration into the hidden world of cloudberries has opened up many new possibilities into unlocking their full potential. My research lays out vital groundwork not only for the future of cloudberry production, but also to secure it as a sustainable and accessible harvest for generations to come. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Distan Silva. I'm studying computer science at the University of Idaho. The topic of my presentation is benchmarking uncertainty quantification for deep learning. So let's get started. Imagine you are in a self-driving car and a person suddenly appears in front of it. The car fails to brake and a person gets hurt. Not because you made a mistake, but because AI failed to detect that person. Worse, it was confident in its detection and didn't even slow down. Recent research shows that even advanced AI models can be overconfident in their predictions even when they are wrong. So now let's look at high-stake example. This one is in healthcare. What you are seeing here is a mammogram of cancer. The AI-based detector looks at this image and confidently predicts healthy. As the bar chart shows, it's around like 90% certain, but in reality, the patient has cancer discovered months later by a real doctor. That's the danger for confident mistakes. This is where my research comes in. I study something called uncertainty quantification, or ICUR. In simple terms, ICUR helps AI say, I might be wrong and here's how unsure I am. My research focuses on benchmarking ICUR methods for misclassification detection, helping us recognize when AI is wrong and how confident it is in those wrong predictions. To explore this, we benchmarked 5 popular ICUR methods on CIFAR-10, a widely used image classification dataset using 2 backbone models, wide ResNet and DesNet. Let me give you a simple analogy for a few of the methods. The one is deep ensemble, which is like asking multiple doctors for their opinions. If they all agree, feel confident and move on. If they don't, you might seek more tests and more consultation. The next one is Monte Carlo dropout, or MC dropout. It's like asking the same doctor again and again with different environment setup and see if their answer remains consistent. Our results show that deep ensembles were most effective at identifying confidently incorrect predictions. That results tell us I made a decision and how sure I am with my prediction. That kind of signal is crucial. It allows doctors to double-check results, potentially preventing misdiagnosis or worse. This work has potential to impact critical domains like healthcare, transportation, and education, where confident mistakes aren't just wrong, they are dangerous. If AI can say, I am not sure, it gives us, the human, a chance to pause, assess, and step in before it's too late. In the future, I will continue expanding this research to build a unified framework that enables practical uncertainty quantification for real-world applications. If you want to learn more about my research, please visit post number 160. Thank you.
Hi everyone. My name is Reagan Williams, and the title of my talk is Food Insecurity in Higher Education. I'm a sociology student, and this past year I did my research within the Intermountain Social Research Lab here at Boise State. My initial question was, why are college students facing such higher rates of food insecurity than the general population? We've all heard of this starving college student trope, but why is this so normalized? My data collection was through hour-long interviews with Boise State students and collaborating with my peers to sort through previous literature.
Through reading and doing interviews with students, I put together my thesis statement, which is that the corporatization of higher education is straining the ability of students to take care of themselves. Universities are running themselves as a business and marketing education as a product, keeping profit margins high. Due to this, I found that students typically feel as though their education is solely a pathway to a career. Students are not actually receiving the education that they need to further develop themselves intellectually. So when students are paying such high tuition and not getting the fulfilling education that they deserve, I found that they make up for it. They do so by rationalizing their struggle of food insecurity as a lesson in itself. Students were saying things along the lines of their struggles bringing out their true character, or that food insecurity is a life lesson that can prepare us for other obstacles post-grad. These lessons are the hidden curriculum that they create for themselves. Other students were completely oblivious to the fact that what they were facing is considered food insecurity, even though these students told me they were passing out on the way home from class or shaking due to lack of easy access to food. This is also a way to normalize it because otherwise they would have to face the fact that they're being exploited by universities capitalizing off of them. Through justifying food insecurity, students reread their modes of survival of higher education as ways that they're actually thriving and preparing themselves for life. This benefits universities because they do not have to expend resources to address these problems for the students. So to understand why students face such high rates of food insecurity, we have to understand how it is viewed as a helpful thing for students and for universities as well. And these are the things I wish to continue exploring next year as I continue my research. Food insecurity can have detrimental effects such as depression, heart disease, diabetes, the list goes on and on. Further, it contributes to economic issues like the cycle of poverty and increased healthcare costs. Only one student that I interviewed was able to criticize the system. He says that for such a wealthy country, we have a high starving population. The true purpose of higher education is instilled within him to be able to address this. The issue is that these ideas, compared to the other students I interviewed, were radical. If students were able to have this mentality, we could create a system of higher education that acts the way it's truly meant to be. Thank you.
Okay. Can we please have a big round of applause for all of our speakers?